I've known Kobe since he was 15 years old, and I was 16, playing AAU basketball. And we go through 18 years of competing and talking junk and about to fight each other and congratulating each other and hating each other, enjoying each other in 18 years. And it's tough to pick one. And I don't want to disappoint you when I come up with one, but I mean, one of the ones is, I think, playing against him for the last time, I want to say in Memphis, our last battle. Just remember talking with him during and after, because we didn't have a lot of conversation during the game often, and if it wasn't friendly, even though we played against each other, and that's what I enjoyed, and that's just what it was. But I think just talking to him and just, I remember asking him, was he ready to retire? He's like, he's ready, and I was like, how are you going to handle it? After 20 years of doing something, how do you handle it? He's like, I'll be okay. He's ready, and he said he's going to figure out. He asked me if I was ready, and it was if I was ready to handle it. I was just, I'm back and forth with it all the time. And he's like, you'll enjoy it. It's peaceful. And he said that's when he said he was at his happiest. And he said, we'll connect soon, and we'll talk about it and how the steps that he went through to be at his happiest and comfortable with retiring, obviously. And and the last thing we talked about is that we were going to continue to do whatever it took to the best of our abilities to take care of our daughters in whatever they want to do, and support them because of the stage and the icon that he is. He's able to put all that aside to give her the attention, or them, all of his daughters, but Gigi in particular, the attention she needed to become the basketball player that she wanted to become. So, it was crushing to me, and I know Trey will come up and he has his stories, and everybody kind of has their stories, but 26 years of knowing that guy, and to find out in our team meeting, and it just blurted it out. I was like, our meetings are done. I was like, am I reading what I'm reading? And, you go through the 20 years of Kobe's career, and you think of how many people in the world hated Kobe because of how great he was. And you get to that last game when he scored 60-something points, and everybody's like, I love Kobe Bryant, just because, it's amazing what he did, his final game. And I think the world grew to love him even more after retirement because of the love he started to show different people. I'm talking about kids in college, Trey, obviously his last tweet to LeBron, just his interactions, and you can see a man who was such a fierce competitor at peace when he was sitting there, when he sits there courtside now, because it's not the Mamba competing against whoever. It's dad teaching his daughter the ins and outs of the game, and how he sees it and how she can learn to break the game down. That's what I saw, and I think that's what a lot of people can see, and I think that's where it catches the basketball world off guard more than anything, because we all saw it. And for those of us who played against him, who knew him, I think that's what kind of is gut-wrenching more than anything, because of his happiness, because of that conversation I had with him, telling me, he's like, I'm at peace, I'm happy, I'm at my happiest. All these championships he's won, MVPs, 81, he was at his happiest in retirement. So it made me feel good to look forward to retirement, just hearing that, and that's where that conversation was. And I was asked that question before, have I reached out to guys and who were retired, and I hadn't done that. There's a few people that I'd planned on, like Kobe, and that was kind of the last conversation, right before we gave a hug, and love you, brother, see you soon.
Well, Vince, it's kind of a two-part question. You touched on a lot of it already from the humanitarian side, looking at that evolution over the last 26 years. What was that like for you to kind of see that up close, going from just him being a basketball player into an NBA ambassador and a humanitarian? So that's my part one.
Well, to see, like I said, see him at 15, it's not far different from him at 25 and 35. You know, to be honest, like, he had the mentality that he was the best or is going to be the best. And, you know, our AAU team was unfair, but it's fun. And he still had the mentality. I mean, we're playing with the Tim Thomas, Rip Hamilton, myself and Kobe. And, you know, it was, I want to be the best, even though our team is great. And just kind of see him just move on to the NBA and develop that mentality to a 10th, 12th power and become the guy that he is, which puts him in a well-deserved debate.
And we've not really seen in this generation someone who goes just not, you know, beyond the U.S., but a world presence, if you will. So I don't know if you had a chance to talk to the guys a lot, but can you share anything with us with what you were able to say to your team about the loss of someone who, like I said, transcends just the game of basketball?
Honestly, it was this maybe something a conversation that I may have later on. I couldn't before the game. So, but I think it's well documented what he's done for the stars of stars today. I mean, it's well documented. Obviously, hearing LeBron's interview after his historic moment, what he's done for players of all magnitudes, of all levels. I mean, you can see, you know, the lives that he's touched to current college players. So I think it speaks volumes and speaks for itself, like who he is and where he was as a person in his retired stage. I think like it was just, his heart was just pouring out for everybody, and he was just willing to help anyone. And I mean, you see him as a competitor when he didn't really talk to many people. And then you see him afterwards like he was more than approachable, more than willing to help you, the player, maybe not become the Mamba that he is, but the best player that you can be, and just give you the groundwork for it. So, and that was kind of my thing for him. I mean, here's a guy who's, you know, been, 4 years, going on 5, I guess 5 years, almost, it's his 5 years now, away from the game in the retirement, and it's new ground for me. So who better than to ask a guy who's done it for 20 years, you know, and that was kind of the plan. So it's just mind-boggling.
Vince, up here on the left front row, like you said, you had a pretty unique relationship with him, both incredibly fierce, but also strong mutual respect there. Yes. I mean, how unique is that among the relationships you had with players, and even going back to when he was 15, what struck you about him when you guys first stepped on the court?
Point blank, his drive to be the best was just, you could see it. I mean, you remember we had starting one of our tournaments. He gets in late, and you know he's playing, and it's like he was already there. It's like he demanded the attention. He wanted to be the best. So, you know, I think for Kobe, it's just, you know, the funny thing about it, and this may be going off of your question, but, you know, I know for players that have played against him, you know, it hit us, you know, in a special way. But it was interesting to see, and I mean, I guess you understood it, but it was interesting to see the effect it had on some of the guys who were barely born when he was in the NBA. And obviously, he's a hero of a lot of them. And if you weren't, you had a high level of respect for him. So to kind of just see, you know, the blank stares on their faces, which brought a somber mood in our locker room. You know, very little was talked about game plan in basketball because it was bigger than basketball, and it was interesting for me.
And following up on the relationship thing, was there a time where you went from I hate this guy to I love this guy to I hate this guy again? What was it?
I mean, it was all through our career. I mean, I played in eight All-Star games, so I think it's kind of, we let our hair down there. It's like, hey, ha, ha, ha. You can see, I mean, there's some, every now and then I come across a couple of pictures where you see us talking and smiling to each other, and then there's a couple of pictures where you see, like, we're, like, right here, finger pointing and or whatever. So, it's all in, all how the game is played and the love of the game. And at that time, that's just how the game was played. It was a fun time. I mean, you had to bring it. One thing you knew about that, he wanted the challenge of the best player, and he wanted to outduel you. And if you weren't prepared for it, you would get embarrassed. So, as we tended to get older, near the end of our career, his last couple of years, our conversations tended to change, a little more friendly, especially his last year. Extremely friendly, fun, and it's still like laughing and joking, but I'm still trying to bust your ass. His last words to me.
Vince, how tough was it to go out there and play the game?
For me personally, it wasn't easy. Like I said, it's just, I understand our jobs, and what has to be done. But like I said, this is a friend of 20 plus years, and to talk to him and hearing and seeing, but hearing his happiness is, what made it tough, because I knew he was happy. He was in a great place. Like I said, he's taken his daughter and her teammates and all, just to experience the game at different levels, different atmospheres, how guys handle different situations. Just knowing him, I can just see when he's pointing what he's saying to her. So that was a tough part. You kind of want to just sit back. If I had maybe an hour or two more, I'm like, all right, we must go on. But it was tough.
All right. Thank you, Vince.
All right.